Dad perfect events. I barely managed to keep myself from losing my temper during what was supposed to be a reconciliation dinner. I went into the kitchen just to get a glass of water, but what I saw there turned everything upside down. My name's Charles Davis. I'm 58, retired NYPD financial crimes detective. The phone rang on a Tuesday morning, and I almost didn't answer. 6 months of silence from my son, and suddenly his name flashed on my screen like a ghost from a life I used to know. Dad. Tim's voice carried that careful tone he used when he was walking on eggshells. I know we haven't talked in a while, but Patty was thinking maybe you could come over for dinner next week. The kids miss their grandpa. I stared at my coffee mug, the one that said NYPD Financial Crimes Unit, 28 years of service. A retirement gift from a life that felt more real than this conversation. The kids miss me. Of course they do. A pause. I miss you too, Dad. The last time we'd spoken, I'd questioned their lifestyle. New BMW. In the driveway, designer furniture, expensive vacations on a nonprofit salary, and software engineer wages. When I'd mentioned it, Patty had called me controlling. Tim had called me worse. What's the occasion? I asked. Does there need to be one? It's almost Christmas. Family time. Family. The word felt hollow. I thought about the $45,000 I'd lent them 2 years ago for their house down payment, still waiting on that repayment. I thought about their wedding, $28,000 I'd scraped together because every girl deserves her dream day. I thought about every time I'd put family first, only to be pushed away. Sure, I said, I'll be there. The week crawled by. I kept my routine. Morning walks through Queens, coffee at Murphy's Diner, chess with Leonard Murphy at the community center. Leo had been my partner for 15 years before moving to FBI financial crimes. Sharp mind, sharper instincts. You look worried, he said, moving his bishop. Tim invited me to dinner. He whistled low. After 6 months? What's she want? That's the question, isn't it? Leo captured my night. Charlie, I've known you since you busted the Riverside embezzlement case. You taught me to trust my gut. What's yours saying? That this isn't about the kids missing their grandpa. Then why go? I moved my rook. Because he's still my son. The night arrived cold and clear. I drove my 8-year-old Honda through streets lined with holiday lights toward the house I'd helped them buy. 482 Maple Avenue sat in Westchester's most expensive neighborhood. Houses pushing $700,000, manicured lawns, 3-car garages. Their mortgage had to be $3,800 a month minimum. On Tim's software engineer salary alone, impossible. The front door opened before I could knock. Patty stood there in a designer dress I didn't recognize, her smile bright and brittle. Charlie, you made it. She hugged me quickly. Perfume expensive and unfamiliar. The house behind her gleamed. New furniture, fresh paint, everything screaming money they shouldn't have. Tim appeared in the hallway, 6'1" of practiced charm in a custom shirt. Dad, good to see you. His handshake was firm enough to prove something. Come in, we've got quite the spread tonight. The dining room table could have fed 12. Prime rib, lobster tails, wine that probably cost more than my weekly grocery budget. The kids, 7 and 5, sat quietly in clothes that still had creases from the store. This is incredible, I said, because what else could I say? Tim got a promotion, Patty said quickly, too quickly, and the foundation's doing amazing work. Heroes Hope Foundation. We raised over $380,000 this year for veterans. Prosthetics, counseling, housing assistance. Life-changing stuff. I watched her talk. This woman who'd married my son 8 years ago. Back then she'd been sweet, hard-working, grateful for every opportunity. When did the gratitude turn to entitlement? When did the warmth become calculation? That's generous, I said. Veterans deserve every bit of help they can get. My father had served in Korea, came back with pieces missing that had nothing to do with his body. He taught me about service, sacrifice, honor. Exactly. Patty leaned forward. Which is why I wanted to talk to you tonight, Charlie. We're starting a new initiative. 6 months, we could triple our impact. But funding timelines are tight, and I thought, well, you've always been generous with family. There it was. The real reason for the dinner, the smiles, the expensive food I hadn't touched. How much? I asked. $22,000, she said, as if that made it reasonable. It's tax deductible. And honestly, what else are you doing with your pension? Sitting on it while people who served our country go without. The presumption stole my breath. Tim wouldn't meet my eyes. I appreciate the opportunity. I kept my voice level. But that's not something I can do right now. Patty's smile tightened. Can't or won't? Does it matter? Tim's voice carried an edge. Patty explained the program. These are veterans who need help. I know what veterans need, I said quietly. I also know what family means, or what it used to mean. The temperature in the room dropped 20 degrees. Tim's jaw clenched. What's that supposed to mean? It means I'm still waiting on the $45,000 I lent you 2 years ago. That was for your house, your future, and you were going to pay it back. We've had expenses, Patty snapped. Like a life. Like responsibilities you wouldn't understand. The words came out harder than I'd intended. Like a 85,000 BMW. Like this house that's twice what you need. Tim stood abruptly. I think you should leave. I think I should too. I stood, my napkin falling to the floor like a white flag. As I walked toward the door, I knew what I had to do. Not anger, not yet. Just a cold, clear recognition of what I'd become to the people I love most. A wallet instead of family. Dad, wait, Tim called. But I was already outside. I sat in my car for a long moment, hands shaking. Not from hurt, from something. And else. A feeling I recognized from my detective days when a case finally clicked into place. Then my chest tightened, pressure spreading. I'd felt this before. Stress-induced hypertension. My doctor had warned me about confrontation. I needed water. Maybe I needed to try one more time. I got out of the car and walked back to the house. I didn't knock. The door wasn't locked. They'd left it open in their certainty I wouldn't return. The argument echoed through the foyer, Tim's voice sharp and bitter. Your father always has to make everything about him. Always the righteous cop, looking down on everyone. He just doesn't understand our situation, Patty said, softer but calculating. No, he understands perfectly. He likes keeping you dependent, control through money, classic manipulation. I stood there, hand on my chest, feeling the pressure ease slightly. Funny how anger can override physical pain. But I needed that water. My mouth tasted like copper. The kitchen sat adjacent too. The dining room through an archway. I moved quietly, my detective instincts still sharp after 3 years of retirement. In investigations, I'd learned to observe, to notice details others missed. That skill didn't retire. The kitchen was another showpiece. Granite countertops, commercial-grade appliances, pendant lights that probably cost more than my first car. And there, on the island, sat a laptop open to a spreadsheet. I wasn't snooping. I was reaching for a glass when my eyes caught the header. Heroes Hope Foundation, Financial Overview, Q3 2024. 28 years in financial crimes teaches you to recognize certain patterns. Invoice discrepancies, irregular payment schedules, ghost vendors. The documents practically screamed at me. Patriot Medical Supply, 52,000. I'd never heard of them. A quick scan showed 3 more like it. Freedom Prosthetics, 67,000. Veterans First Equipment, 61,000. My hands moved on autopilot, pulling out my phone. Years of documenting evidence dies hard. I photographed the first page, then scrolled down. Bank statements showing wire transfers to accounts in Delaware, corporate havens for people hiding something. The foundation had raised $387,000. The disbursements to actual veterans? Maybe $45,000. The rest disappeared into a web of shell companies and what looked like offshore gambling accounts. My father's face flashed in my mind. How he'd struggled after Korea, waiting months for the VA to approve his disability claim. How he'd died still believing his country valued his service. Patty was stealing from people like my father. What are you doing? I turned. Patty stood in the archway, her face transitioning from confusion to alarm as she saw what I held. The laptop, her financial confession. These are private documents. She moved forward, hand outstretched. These are evidence. My voice came out flat. Detective, you've been embezzling from a veterans charity, Patty. Wire fraud, falsifying tax documents. These Delaware accounts, let me guess, you're the beneficial owner hiding behind an LLC. Her face drained of color, then flushed. You went through my things? They were sitting open on your kitchen counter where you left them because you never thought someone might actually look. Arrogance is expensive, Patty. I pulled out my phone, started dialing. What are you doing? Panic crept into her voice. Calling 911. She lunged, 5'6", 20 years younger, but desperate. I'd spent a career dealing with desperate people. I stepped aside, let her momentum carry her past me. She caught herself on the counter, breathing hard. 911. What's your emergency? This is Charles Davis, retired NYPD. I'm at 482 Maple Avenue in Westchester. I need to report financial crimes, embezzlement from a federally funded charity. I have documentary evidence. Patty's expression cycled through denial, rage, fear, calculation. Tim appeared in the doorway. Dad! Tim's eyes were